You didn't leave your job to become just another coach. But without structure, that's exactly where most senior leaders end up. Frustrated, underpaid, and replaceable. I'm Riley McGhee, and I left the COO role to build a six-figure coaching and consulting business. Over the last decade, I've worked with hundreds of solopreneurs, including founders, coaches, and consultants who've built predictable five-figure months. In this video, I'll show you why experienced coaches and consultants can quietly drift into irrelevance and how to design a business that takes you from drifting to in demand. Leaving a steady salary might feel like a big decision, but it's not actually the hard part. Let me tell you what no one prepares you for when you take that big leap. When I left my COO role, I still loved my job. The team, the challenge, the industry we were in. I didn't leave to escape. I left because it felt aligned with the next chapter of my life. And that confused people, and I get it. Why would you leave something that you love? But what I had trouble admitting at the time was that I was afraid of becoming irrelevant. Because when you have a big job title, authority is assumed. It's like walking into a room wearing a uniform, it just shouts instant authority. And the authority is real, but it's contextual. Because once you take the uniform off and you walk into a new room and suddenly no one knows who you are. No real title. You have no inherited status. You have no automatic authority. It is just you. And that's the identity gap that people don't talk about. In sports psychology, that's my master's degree, this is called identity foreclosure. And it's super common with retired athletes or military leaders, but the same thing happens with your career. Inside an organization, authority is borrowed. Outside of it, authority has to be constructed. And that's a huge challenge because the corporate world has these clear lanes, like there's clear ownership and defined KPIs and quarterly targets and teams aligned around shared outcomes. But entrepreneurship and solopreneurship especially is just open water. There's no lanes, no guardrails, no inherited authority. It's just pure navigation. And this is where things can feel heavier than you were expecting. Because as an employee, you execute and move on. But as a solopreneur, you have to decide what to do before you even do it. Then you execute, then you evaluate, then you redesign and restart and second guess, and the cycle just goes on from there. When I started building my first business, that lesson hit me so hard. I've had months where revenue ranged from $20,000 all the way down to $0. And the highs felt awesome, but it's hard not to take the lows personally. I worked 10 to 12-hour days to launch a new offer, and not because someone told me to do it, but because belief and work ethic was all I had to go on. And here's the strange part. You can feel lazy while working nonstop because effort usually isn't the real issue. It's structure. No matter what society says, people don't leave their jobs for freedom from work. They leave for freedom to write their own stories, to choose your own clients, to choose what problems you solve, to choose what impact you have. I shared this idea with countless founders and coaches and consultants, and never once did I hear someone say that they wanted to spend the rest of their life sipping cocktails on the beach. So it's not freedom from, it's freedom to fill in the blank. And as soon as you realize that, you can get much clearer on exactly what you need to do to make that happen. But freedom without structure becomes drift. And drift is subtle. It doesn't feel like failure at first. It feels like flexibility. It feels like autonomy until you realize you're not really steering the ship. You're just floating wherever the wind takes you. Then the referrals slow down. Then the momentum stalls. And then you start to feel stuck again. And that sucks. This feeling creeps up inside of you and it's just hanging out in the back of your head like you're doing something wrong. And that's where most coaches and consultants accidentally make themselves replaceable. Here's how that usually happens. At first, you get early traction and maybe your name carries some weight. Some former colleagues refer you. You think, hey, I've got this. And for a while, you probably do, if I'm honest. But if you haven't translated your authority deliberately, here's what happens. You start saying yes to work that's just close enough. Then you keep changing your offer depending on who you're talking to. You start maybe adding certifications to feel more legitimate. You post insights and selfies, hoping the right person sees them. And that's how you stay busy. And busy isn't the same as in demand. And in demand isn't the same as irreplaceable. And I've seen this with executives like Lila and Rob and John, incredibly capable leaders, like incredible coaches. But without clear positioning, they were comparable. And comparable is replaceable. You don't have a credibility issue. The problem is translating your skills into the marketplace in a way that describes what problems you solve and what outcomes you can deliver. If you can't clearly articulate the shift or transformation that you create, the market will default you into the category of just another coach. It's not because you lack depth or experience. It is just simply because you never clearly defined what you do, who it's for, and why it matters. So what actually fixes this? Well, most people just work harder, but been there, done that. The solution isn't just effort. It's also leverage. When I got handed a $900 check for my first paid workshop, I was over the moon excited. I even went out for ice cream after to celebrate. But then in less than maybe 24 hours, I realized how much work went into earning that check and just how unsustainable that was for me. And that's when it clicked. It can't just be effort alone. Effort alone doesn't scale. I needed a better structure around what I was doing. So here's what that structure actually looks like. Number one, you have to package your expertise. Not I do coaching or I offer consulting or even specific, like I do leadership coaching. That's not enough. You have to define a specific outcome-driven shift that's anchored in your lived experience. That is where authority comes from. You don't sell your services, you are selling a transformation. Number two, you need to build an opportunity engine. You can't depend on random referrals. I swear, I promise you, they eventually dry up. So stop hoping someone remembers you or your previous title and start creating a repeatable way to generate qualified conversations. Your reputation might open some doors, but the engine keeps them coming. And the third thing is collaborative value creation. You're not pitching, you're not convincing, you are designing conversations where both sides can see a clear fit. There's no chasing here. It's more about creating space for alignment. And when these three pieces are in place, you'll notice something start to shift. Revenue will begin to stabilize, positioning starts to sharpen, authority starts compounding, and people you don't even know will start to know you. And most importantly, you stop aimlessly drifting. And look, I have lived this. I know you didn't leave a career behind just to float along. You left to steer your own ship, to write your own narrative. But as the great Ben Parker tells us, with great power comes great responsibility. So to be the captain, you have to navigate the unknown. But that doesn't mean that you have to do it alone. If you're serious about building that navigation system instead of inheriting whatever floats across your path, that's exactly what we built inside of Network and Sell. And there should be a link to check that out below. Going down a dead-end path isn't dramatic. It's something that happens incrementally over time. And that might even be how you ended up in a job that you knew you had to leave. But I can't stress this enough, so I'm going to leave you with this. Being the author of your own life is 100% a decision. It really boils down to that. And it requires intention, it requires commitment, but ultimately it's a choice that only you can make. So you tell me, what decision can you make right now that will make your life a better story?